Welcome to my channel.
The Well of Belief by Your Name. In a peaceful corner of the world, nestled between rolling hills and sun-kissed meadows, lay a small village where life moved slowly and gently, like a leaf drifting down a lazy stream. It was the kind of place where neighbors still greeted each other with warm smiles, and where children played freely in the dusty streets until the sun dipped below the horizon. In this village lived two inseparable boys, bound not by blood, but by a friendship so deep. It felt as if the universe itself had stitched their souls together. One of the boys, named Ravi, was 10 years old. He was tall for his age, with a mop of wild hair and a mischievous grin that rarely left his face. His eyes sparkled with a curiosity that often got him into trouble, but his cleverness usually helped him out of it. The younger boy, Arjun, was just 6, smaller in stature but no less spirited. He had round cheeks, wide eyes full of wonder, and a laugh that could melt even the sternest villager's heart. The two were often seen dashing through fields, climbing trees, or sitting under the old banyan tree sharing secrets and stories only they understood. They were known throughout the village as a pair. Ravi and Arjun, said in one breath, like a single name. They did everything together. They played together, ate together, dreamed together. Their adventures were the talk of the village, and many an elder smiled fondly as they watched the two boys run by, their footsteps echoing, with the joy of youth and the promise of endless possibilities. One fine afternoon, the sky was a brilliant shade of blue, and the air carried the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. Ravi and Arjun, as usual, were in the middle of another playful escapade. They had eaten their lunch hurriedly and slipped away before their mothers could assign them chores. Laughing and calling out to each other, they ran through the fields, their bare feet brushing against tall grass, butterflies fluttering in their wake. "You can't catch me," Ravi shouted, turning around briefly to stick out his tongue before sprinting ahead. "Oh, yes, I can," Arjun called back, his laughter ringing like a bell. He pumped his arms furiously, determined to close the gap between them. They weaved through the fields, chasing each other like puppies at play, until they neared the edge of the woods that bordered the village. The forest was not deep, but it was thick with undergrowth and secrets. Children were often warned not to stray too far in, but today, fueled by joy and the thrill of the chase, Ravi didn't slow down. He darted through the bushes, not noticing the hidden danger that lay ahead. Suddenly, with a snap of branches and a startled cry, Ravi disappeared from sight. There was a heavy splash, followed by frantic thrashing. Arjun skidded to a stop, his heart leaping into his throat. "Ravi!" he called out, his voice trembling. "Help! I can't swim!" came the terrified reply from a few feet away. Pushing through the last of the bushes, Arjun's eyes widened in horror. Before him yawned a deep, old well, its mouth partially concealed by thick brambles. Down below, Ravi was struggling to stay. Afloat, his arms flailing, his eyes wide with fear. Panic gripped Arjun. He looked around frantically. The village was too far. By the time he ran back and brought help, Ravi might have drowned. His friend was splashing weakly now, his strength ebbing. "I have to do something," Arjun whispered to himself, fists clenched. That's when he saw it. A rusted iron bucket lying to the side of the well, still tied to a length of thick rope, old but intact. Without a second thought, Arjun sprang into action. He dragged the bucket to the edge and hurled it into the well. "Grab it, Ravi! Hold on!" he screamed. Ravi, now barely able to keep his head above the water, reached out with all the strength he had left and caught the bucket. His fingers wrapped around it like a lifeline. Arjun took a deep breath. He dug his heels into the ground, wrapped the rope around his tiny hands, and began to pull. At first, the rope barely moved. Ravi was not heavy, but for a 6-year-old, it felt like trying to lift a mountain. Arjun's arms burned. His hands began to ache, and the rope bit into his palms. Still, He didn't let go. "I won't let go," he muttered through gritted teeth. "I won't." Sweat poured down his face. Dirt clung to his knees as he braced his feet harder against the ground, using every ounce of strength he had. Inch by inch, the rope moved. Inch by inch, Ravi rose out of the water. The wind rustled the trees above, but Arjun didn't hear it. All he could hear was the pounding of his own heart, the echo of his friend's desperate breaths, and the whisper of determination that told him he could do this. After what felt like forever, Ravi's hands grasped the edge of the well. With one final tug, Arjun yanked him over the side, and both boys collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, tears welled up in their eyes, and they turned to each other. "You saved me," Ravi whispered hoarsely. Arjun smiled through his tears. "Of course I did. Who else would I play with if you were gone?" They hugged, their small bodies shaking, not just from exhaustion, but from the overwhelming tide of relief that washed over them. They sat there, side by side, until their breathing steadied. The sun was beginning to lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the fields. Then Ravi sat up abruptly. "Oh, no." "What?" "What if our parents find out?" he said, wide-eyed. "We're going to get the scolding of our lives." Arjun's mouth fell open. He hadn't even thought of that. They exchanged a look of dread, but deep down, both knew they couldn't hide what had happened. It was too big, too real. And even if they wanted to keep it a secret, the soaked clothes and bruises would tell the story anyway. So they stood up, brushed the dirt from their knees, and made their way back to the village. When they arrived, their families rushed to them in alarm. "What happened to you two?" The boys spoke over each other, voices tumbling out in excitement and fear as they described the fall, the well, and the rescue. Their eyes sparkled with emotion as they recounted each detail, but instead of shock or pride, the villagers laughed. "A 6-year-old pulled a 10-year-old out of a well? Impossible! He can't even lift a bucket of water properly. You two must have made this up." The boys' faces fell. Their hearts, which had been so full, now felt heavy with disappointment. No one believed them. No one, that is, except for one old man who had been listening silently at the edge of the crowd. Uncle Frederick. He was the oldest and wisest man in the village. People often sought his advice, though he rarely gave it freely. But now, he stepped forward, tapping his cane gently against the ground. "Let me ask you something," he said, his voice calm and steady. "Not how he did it, but why he could do it." The villagers fell silent. "You see," Uncle Frederick continued, turning to the crowd, "there was no one around to tell this boy he couldn't do it. No one to say, 'You're too small,' or 'You're too weak.' Not even himself. In that moment, he believed he could, and so he did." His words hung in the air like magic. The villagers looked at each other, then at Arjun. Slowly, they began to understand. The truth wasn't in the logic. It was in the belief. That day, something changed in the village, not just in how people saw Arjun, but in how they saw themselves, because they realized that belief has a power all its own. From that day forward, the story of the well was told and retold, not just as a tale of two boys, but as a lesson in courage, love, and belief. And Arjun? He grew up to be a man who never once let doubt take root in his heart, because he had learned at just 6 years old that when you believe in something deeply enough, even something impossible, you find the strength to make it real. Moral of the story. The only limits we truly have are the ones we accept. If no, one tells you that you can't, and if you don't tell yourself that you can't, you may just find that you can do anything. Doubt weakens us. Belief strengthens us. So when the world doubts you, believe harder.